So we're talking about intentionality and how the way of Jesus involves listening. So I hope that you listen again as we read Psalm 1. The truly happy person doesn't follow wicked advice, doesn't stand on the road of sinners, and doesn't sit with the disrespectful. Instead of doing those things, these persons love the Lord's instruction, and they recite God's instruction day and night. They are like a tree planted and replanted by streams of water, which bears fruit at just the right time, and whose leaves don't fade. Whatever they do succeeds. They are like a tree planted by streams of water, which bears fruit at just the right time, and whose leaves don't fade. Whatever they do succeeds. So we're talking about listening and cultivating this way of Jesus, this way of humility. The first three things that the psalmist names are these ways in which the world operates, the ways in which we might find ourselves walking and standing and then sitting. So we're walking, we're just going along, we're caught up in it, we're standing in it, or we're sitting in it, we're like immersed in it, right? And Jesus says, or the psalmist says, no, that's not the way of God. And in many ways, the gospel news is that the way of Jesus, the way of God, is a way where we come open-handed and we listen. We don't elevate ourselves. We don't make ourselves the most important thing in the room. We actually care about other people. So much so that God cared so much about the world and people who didn't love him that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So as I think about this idea of being good listeners, good humble people with other people, that's the intentionality. That's the way that the tree planted by streams of water is going to be. The people who love the Lord's instruction are going to be these people who are listening, who are humble. But what does it mean to be humble and listen to God? It's pretty tangible to go into a restaurant and let somebody else order for you, or to be in relationship with your spouse and realize that in this fight, it's not about winning the argument, it's about listening and coming open-handed. What does that look like with God? Where, as one of my students in youth group used to say, it's like prayer is like a text message thread with God, and God just never replies. You have some of those text message threads? Maybe right now during COVID-19, you've sent some texts, or you've called and you made some calls, and you never see the bubbles come back. You never get a reply. It says delivered, but it never says read. You just wonder, is God really listening? Well, what does it look like for me then to listen to God? Breathing is the practice that I want to suggest for you, and it may seem really, really stupid, but I think it's very rudimentary that we all need to breathe in and out, in and out. If you stop inhaling and you stop exhaling, you will die. Your body will die from oxygen deprivation. Your body needs to inhale and exhale. And we need to inhale and exhale in our relationship with God, otherwise we're going to die too. We need to listen to God by breathing. And one of the ways that this has been described to me well, and I've read it in an article by a gal who is known as Mama Maggie, and she's a Coptic Christian in Egypt. In 2011, she gave a speech where she talked a little bit about how when we silence our voices, right, we can kind of hear our thoughts. And when we silence our thoughts, we can hear our spirit. When we silence our spirit, we can listen to His Spirit. And so in silence and solitude, we leave the many to be with the one. So for you, I don't know about your situation, how many people are there. Maybe you have family, maybe you have kids. I know it's hard sometimes to turn off the TV, turn off the noise. Even though we're isolated, we're actually practicing solitude. We're having to. Sometimes we're not turning off the noise. We're not turning off our thoughts in order to listen to our spirit. And turning off our spirit so we might listen to God's Spirit. We're not listening. And breathing really helps us do that. We inhale, we exhale. So here's some breathing tips for you. One is you can breathe in, I am here. And then exhale, you are here. Recognizing God's presence. You can practice yoga that centers yourself in breathing. And it helps you just let go of the thoughts that are making you anxious, and that gives you space to be present to what God may be speaking to you. And then you can also pray the Psalms. So you might pray a psalm like that we're doing right now by breathing in one line and exhaling another line. So I hope that breathing will help you connect with God more and will add value to your life.